All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to get going here. All right. U.S. markets had a bit of a wild ride there at the end of the session when Bernanke's comments were released on the FOMC statement. I think a couple interesting notes. One that they didn't make any mention of taper in the statement. I think some people were expecting them to make a mention of the taper. We also had some comments yesterday from Obama, and throwing a little bit of a defensive attitude toward Larry Summers. Basically saying, he'd been unfairly judged, so the market's thinking that maybe he's actually got a bigger chance of being the next Fed chief than he previously thought. And then also he mentioned the name Donald Kahn, which is all those things are a little bit of surprise. I think the markets are digesting a lot of that. I don't think that the markets will. I can say without a question the markets won't like Larry Summers to be the next Fed head. So as we see talks and comments progress, I think any mention of him becoming the front runner, you've got to realize you see headlines, you hear comments, things like that are released. It's really potentially could put pressure on global equity markets. So just keep that in mind going forward. The Fed did say is that is maintaining their bond buying program, and that inflation is persistently below its 2% objective and could pose risks to economic performance. That's the one thing that they did highlight. They highlighted the lack of inflation. So I think I'm actually surprised the gold price didn't run a little bit more on that. And I think it's going to be really interesting to monitor going forward, because I can tell you right now, I find it very difficult to believe that he's going to back off of anything so long as inflation is very, very low. So we'll have to continue to monitor that going forward. All right, Asian markets, a pretty good day across the board. We had a lot of data out of Asia and a lot of data globally, PMI numbers, etc. We had Chinese PMI numbers, which we'll go over in a second, that were slightly better than expected, and the government number slightly worse than expected on the HSBC number, which focuses a little bit more on smaller companies. So there was a bit of a mixed picture there, and I think the markets probably rallied more than anything on the back of the U.S. Fed number or Fed speak and everything that happened there, and just had a little bit more time to digest it. So that's where I think we're pointing in that direction. It's also interesting. We had PMI numbers out of South Korea, which were better than expected by about 0.3%, and a lot of people calling South Korea the new canary in the coal mine for global growth. So I think that's definitely a positive for markets today. All right, a lot of earnings out this morning. We had MetLife out yesterday in the States, better on EPS, miss on revenue. We had Societe Generale out this morning, a nice beat on the net income number. We had Arcelor out here locally, which was just a shocking number, minus 31 cents on the HEPS versus expected of minus 13 cents. And then on the revenue number, also had a huge miss of about $500 million. So the one thing that they said for the quarter three outlook was that earnings are expected to be lower than the preceding quarter. So you can see the preceding quarter right there. So if they're going to be lower than that, that's a bit of a shocker. I don't think the markets are going to take that well. I know if you remember back a few months ago, they had talked about the back half of this year being the point in time where they were expecting to start to generate positive earnings again, and the fact that these numbers are coming out now is really, really a bad sign for Arcelor. Okay, we also had LBH out this morning with earnings per share. It was a nice beat at 648 versus expected at 617. Interesting thing was the net income number was a miss by about 0.1 billion. So I'm not sure how they ended up with such a nice beat on the EPS, but divvy per share was also a bit light as well. So LBH, maybe a little bit of a mixed bag. of this morning, but we'll show it on the charts in a little bit. Next one, we had trading update out of Investec. Total operating income up 4%, operating costs up 4%, impairment losses on loans down 6%. Lots of commentary on that. I think we'll be a little bit better prepared as these headlines continue to come down the Bloomberg terminal at the moment to give you some more feedback later on. But we also had MTN that was out with this first half trading statement. They said that headline earnings per share would be higher than previous numbers by 20 to 25%. The expectation was for 19.5%. I know that they had a big gain on currency gain. I think was about $1 billion from the weakening rand. So I don't know how much that needs to be factored in, but regardless, I think significantly better than what expectations were. So we'll have to watch that one on the open. Later today, we've got a lot of the oil, the two big oil majors, ConocoPhillips and ExxonMobil, and then we've also got Procter & Gamble and AIG after the bell. Lots of market data out today. Like I said, we had the Chinese manufacturing PMI numbers from the government numbers and the HSBC numbers. I think the HSBC number was a miss. I think that's supposed to be 47.8, a small miss, and then a small beat as well on the other number. You can see that we also had vehicle sales in Japan, slightly better. We've got PMI across the entire Eurozone in the UK. We've got it here locally today. Then we've also got interest rate announcements out of the BOE and the ECB. We've got initial jobless claims in the States at 2:30, and then we've got ISM manufacturing. So we pretty much have data literally coming throughout the entire day. It'll be really key to see what happens in some of these numbers. So just tread lightly today around the data and wait to make your move. All right, let's jump into the maps. All right, the first one I want to have a look at here is the FTSE. I just want to show here, look on the daily chart here, and you can see, so let me take this up a little bit. You can see there, we really came down to test support on the FTSE over the last few sessions, and then you can see there, on a closing basis, we really flagged off of the support and broke out nicely yesterday. I mean, FTSE absolutely outperformed every market yesterday. We were up at one point. I think futures were up higher than they even are this morning. I think we traded up to about 66.20 on the futures. Incredible action there. I'm not sure why specifically the FTSE was so strong, but the pattern looks really good for us to go higher, potentially all the way up, maybe even to 6,700 in the near term. All right, let's look at First Rand. First Rand a big close yesterday, and it took us above support. I think both on the flag and laterally here. So either way you look at it, I think First Rand did go above supports a little bit yesterday. You can see that there is some resistance here around $30. So I don't really think this thing's going to the moon here too quickly, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it trade up to $30 rather quickly this morning. Watch it around 30. If we can get above 30, obviously this thing's got more room to the upside. All right, BTI. We showed BTI yesterday or day before yesterday, maybe. We've talked about this little downtrend that we've been in, and it really is kind of flagging a little bit off of out of a long-term uptrend. We had a nice breakout yesterday on the back of earnings, and kind of bounced around a little bit, waiting to decide which way it was going to go. We moved nicely higher into the second half of the session, and that's confirming a really good breakout here on this flag pattern. I would say that we could trade significantly higher here on this technically for BTI. All right, LBH. We talked about this earnings this morning, and you can really see here we've got. If you take the one close that we had out back in March, where resistance is right there at a touch south of 124, just call it 124 to make it easy, and we've really had a nice push up off of the kind of bottom of end of this range. So we've really been range bound for the most part in in Liberty, it's kind of almost looking like it's setting up a bit of a head and shoulder, but now we really look like we're breaking up a little bit today with earnings. This is going to be really important because those earnings are obviously a beat on earnings per share and a miss on net income. If we get above 24 today, I think you can play this thing on the long side, but like I said, if we drop support here, this thing may trade back down to the bottom end of this range. It could be a good day to be involved and play LVH on the breakout one way or another. All right, we're going to look at Mr. Price here. Mr. Price, one of the retailers that's found a little bit of support recently. Yesterday we had a really nice session. We're able to break out of this recent downtrend. And I think this is important because we really are, as choppy as this thing has been. I mean, we were ripping up for 20, 30 rand and ripping back down 20 or 30 rand. And the fact that we've broken out to the upside here, you can see how these things trend. If you would have drawn the similar looking trend line back here in June, and then you caught this breakout, would have had a couple nice days to follow up on that. And you can look at that the opposite way if you were to take it through breaking down below some of these very steep moves. So like I said, we had another steep move to the downside. The first major reversal bar has tended to be indicative of the next couple of days move. Like I said, you can see how many red candles in a row that this stock puts in, how many green candles in a row. I mean, it's very. This is a very good trend stock. So watch Mr. Price today. Could be a nice second day play this afternoon. All right, we'll have a look at Fashini here. Fashini, I really like the chart on this because there's so many inflection points in terms of support and resistance on this line. It really comes in at about 102, and then I think also you can look at lateral resistance here, maybe a touch south of 103. So somewhere between this little line here, this little range. If we get above either one, I think it's bullish. But if we get above both, I think we really can trade significantly higher. And Fashini, the bottom end of this range, it would make for about a 10 rand up move, which would kind of take us back to around the 112 level. Wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. Just watch it closely. If we can take out resistance here and Fashini, we definitely can get moving to the upside. All right, that's the last one for local. Let's have a look at UPL in the States. We'll just show here. I mean, this thing's looking. This thing is testing right at resistance at the moment. You can see a very significant level that we're approaching at the moment, right around 2180. I think we can break above 2180. It's definitely got some room to the upside. Obviously, potentially test the highs of the year. If we fail at 2180, this thing is going to look like a hell of a lot like a head and shoulders pattern here. So we could really also. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. So we could potentially fail off of this level as well. So just be careful on this one. If we get above 2180 on a closing basis, I definitely think it's got nice room to the upside. If it continues to battle, can't get up, I think it's going to be a good one to fade if you're looking for some short exposure and a potential head and shoulder setup. And that's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot.